Hi everyone, I'm Steven and today I'm using cereal boxes to make DIY Iron Spider web shooters. If you're curious, please subscribe, like this video, and let's get to it. I started this off by building a mock web shooter out of tape and poster board. This was all done off camera because I was just playing around while watching some TV. However, after I got something I liked, I cut the two pieces apart and traced each part onto cereal box cardboard. These are the two main parts of the web shooter that Spider-Man wears, the base layer and the top layer. Don't worry, I made a template so you can make these Iron Spider web shooters yourself. I tape up this little notch to help give the web shooter its curve, and then I helped reinforce that tape with some super glue. This is going to be the base layer. On the base layer, I add a little decorative V-shaped piece of cardboard that will lay right on top of my wrist. Later on, I'll add something to this piece so it looks like webs or lasers can shoot out of my wrist. This V-shaped cardboard is mainly decorative, but it also helps strengthen the base layer and prevent it from being too flimsy. Once that's glued in place, I moved onto the portion that lays against my wrist. I looked at as many pictures of Iron Spider's web shooters as I could find online, and in each picture it looked like this part has a ton of layers. So I started off by adding some detail work to the finger button. With that in place, I grabbed some scrap plastic. I used an empty plastic salad tub, but you can use anything that's flat and clear. I cut out two circles, a small one for this tiny piece and then a larger one for the finger button. I painted the plastic in white, light turquoise, and then regular turquoise. To get the lightest turquoise, I just mixed together some white and turquoise in order to lighten it up. When the plastic is flipped over, you can see all the streaks of the three different colors. Make sure you only paint one of the sides of the plastic. You want the other side to stay shiny. Okay, so take this little cardboard piece and glue the plastic small circle onto it so the shiny side faces up. Glue this piece onto the base layer, and then do the same thing for the bigger circle, placing it at the top of the finger button. Next, I cut out a ring of cardboard the same size as the big plastic circle, and sandwiched that over the big plastic circle, just like this. Then I added some cardboard to layer on top of this wrist section. This works as an additional layer and helps cover up the ends of the wrist button that I just glued on. Once that piece is glued on, I grabbed an old clicky pen and pulled off the plastic pen tip part. This little piece got glued onto the center so it looks like a little nozzle where Spider-Man can shoot things out of. When the glue dried, I covered it with another piece of cardboard. This time I cut out a little divot on the top so the pen could still poke through. The rectangle cut out at the bottom of this is just where I'll slip in the cartridges later on in this build. On some reference photos, I noticed that there are 3 layers of details on these web shooters, so I cut out a design for more cereal box cardboard and then glued it on top, starting at the bottom and then carefully lifting each side to glue each of the sides down. The second layer of detail work are just single strips, so I cut that out and then glued them down, constantly trimming until I got something even on both sides. And then I did the same for the third and final layer. With the wrist portion done, I decided it was time to add on the hook and loop. This is just Velcro and I got it from the dollar store and I cut out the shape that I wanted before sticking it on. The one I have is self-adhesive, but if yours isn't, just super glue it on with a lot of glue so it stays in place when you open and close the web shooter. Okay, so now comes the part of the prop that made me want to pull my hair out, the top part. So I was able to get a decent looking shape from the mock-up that I did earlier. I used my hands to help the cardboard curve without bending or creasing. I taped together the little notch to give it a curve, reinforced the tape with some glue, and then glued one side of it onto the base layer before gluing on the other side. As you can see, the center bumps up a little bit. This is how the Iron Spider web shooters are designed, with a little raised up portion. So if you make this prop, make sure you don't push this piece down flat. Now it comes on to the design work for the top part. I started on the side and added a little piece of cardboard that mimicked the designs in the reference photos that I saw online. In these photos, I noticed that there's a little light above it, so I grabbed my plastic salad tub again, cut out some shapes, and did the same type of paint job that I did for the circles on the wrist portion. I started with white, then white mixed with turquoise, and then finally turquoise. To be safe, I did a final coat of white just to make sure that I didn't miss any spots. I thought these colors kind of resembled an Iron Man looking light or energy source, and that's why I picked them. Anyway, once the paint is dried, I glued them down shiny side up. Just a tip, if any glue pokes out of the sides, just use some scrap cardboard to push it down and wipe away the glue. You don't want super glue on your fingers. After that, I just continued gluing down pieces of cardboard to mimic the designs from the movie as best as I could manage. This was kind of tedious and started getting a little frustrating when I would glue something incorrectly. By the way, be careful gluing anything down with super glue. Sometimes it sticks immediately and you can't move it around. I learned this over and over when I was building these web shooters, so much so that a lot of my spacing isn't even, which ended up throwing off the template that I made for you guys. So just a warning, this page of the template will require you to trim things to fit. I'll repeat that, you'll need to trim each of these pieces to fit your specific web shooter. I'm sorry, but I honestly couldn't figure out how to fix the template to make it accurate, because it honestly will depend on the spacing that you're able to manage between each piece before the super glue dries. Anyway, I added another pen tip so it pokes out between the base layer and the top layer. At this point, I thought the web shooter was done, but then I realized I forgot to make a cartridge. So I just cut out and glued together 3 cardboard rectangles, then glued 2 thinner rectangles onto that to make it look like 2 separate cartridges. Then I added a tiny piece of cardboard about 1/3 of the way down, and then glued on 2 thinner pieces of cardboard on top of that, lining up the top of those with those thin pieces. This just helps keep them raised up. Once that's done, I painted each web shooter with 2 coats of black craft paint, avoiding the plastic pieces that I had already painted. I'm going to go in and give everything 3 or 4 coats of light gold metallic craft paint, and then I'll be back with the finished product. So there you have it, DIY Spider-Man Iron Spider web shooters made from cereal boxes, scrap plastic, and 2 old pens. The Velcro keeps them closed, and the paint job almost makes it look like metal. I'm not gonna lie, these web shooters took me many hours to figure out, so I'm happy that this project is finally done. I'm slightly bummed I wasn't able to 100% accurately match the designs on top of these with the designs in the movie, but overall I'm pretty pleased and I think they look pretty good. However, I will say I absolutely love the wrist portion of the web shooters, so I'm just going to focus on that. Anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from everyone. I'd also love it if you would subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye. These would have been so much easier to make out of foam.